Heartwarming journey, billionaire discovers his homeless ex-love after 10 years. What happens will shock you. In the heart of San Francisco, beneath the towering glass skyscrapers, Jack whispered his dreams into the ether. A self-made billionaire at only 35, he had everything: money, power, influence. But only in solitude could he hear the faint echoes of his past, haunting him. The bustling streets outside were alive with laughter and ambition, but inside his luxurious penthouse apartment, a deep pit of isolation gnawed at his chest. What good was wealth without someone to share it with? Then came the fateful evening of the charity gala. Jack stood before an audience adorned in evening gowns and tailored suits as the lights dimmed. The excitement hung heavy in the air, and he smiled, ready to bask in his success. But as the crowd hushed to hear him speak, the announcement came: a name that shattered his carefully constructed world: Emily. His high school sweetheart, lost to time, was homeless. The smile slid from his face, replaced by a cold grip of guilt. Money poured from his pocket, yet he felt like a ghost drifting through a civilization built on privilege and pain. He hurried outside, the brisk evening air mingling with the fog rolling from the bay. Jack's mind raced as the city lights twinkled above him, a stark contrast to the shadows lurking below. He navigated through the shimmering restaurants and vibrant streets, his heart pounding like a war drum. Memories whisked him back to the sun-soaked afternoons spent with Emily, sharing cheesy fries and dreams of a better life. The young couple had shattered like glass when they parted ways, a bittersweet farewell that clung to him like a haunting melody. He had climbed the ladder of success, but at what cost? The question danced in his head as he made his way towards the park, where he heard whispers of encampments, a hidden world he had ignored for too long. He turned into the entrance, where reality throbbed with a painful urgency. What he found took his breath away. Tents lined the path under the giant oaks, sagging and worn, a stark reminder of reality's harshness. Faces weathered by life's storms greeted him, their eyes dull yet flickering with an ember of resilience. And then there she was. Emily. The girl who had once lit up his world stood before him, her hair tangled, clothes faded, yet her spirit radiated defiance. "Jack," she breathed, her voice a fragile thread in the chaos of the park. The tears welled in his eyes as he took stock of her, his heart racing violently. Time had changed her, life had changed them both. The warmth of their connection sparked a yearning deep within him. They embraced, and he felt the world spin anew. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they talked and laughed, she shared her dream: a community center to give hope to those struggling like her. His heart pulsed with excitement. Jack was reminded of their youthful ambition and zeal. But as their project took shape, a dark cloud loomed in the distance: a powerful corporation eager to buy the land. Like sharks circling prey, they cared for profit over people. Jack's chest tightened as he stood amidst competing visions for the neighborhood. Could he bring his wealth to the fight without overshadowing Emily's grassroots spirit? Was it possible to bridge their worlds and forge a new path? Just as they rallied for a protest against the corporation, a flicker of betrayal from Jack's past emerged, leaving him torn between love and ambition. Night fell over the city, and Jack found himself on stage, the crowd chanting their hope. But as he raised his voice, deep doubts surged within him. Could he unify their vision while battling the demons of his success? The crowd roared, but his heart raced with the weight of uncertainty. What path would he choose? The solution held the key to both their futures, a question that lingered in the air, waiting for an answer. The crowd's energy washed over Jack, fueling a mix of exhilaration and dread. Each face in the audience lit up with hope as he spoke, yet at that moment, he felt like a charlatan, a man poised to exploit their dreams. What if he failed? What if everything he said was just smoke and mirrors? The fiery rhetoric sputtered in his throat as he scanned the crowd, spotting familiar faces from a life he had left behind. Old friends, mentors, even potential investors. Could they sense his turmoil? Emily watched from the sidelines, her expression a blend of encouragement and trepidation. With every word that left his lips, the walls of his heart fought back, and he caught the fleeting shadow of self-doubt gripping at his insides. Then the unexpected happened. Someone shouted from the back, "Why should we trust you, Jack? You've been living in the lap of luxury while we've been fighting to survive." Their accusation hit him like a slap. The laughter faded, replaced by murmurs of confusion and resentment. It was the hard truth. How could he convince them he was on their side when he didn't even know his place in this crusade? A knot twisted in his stomach, but he pressed on. "I know some of you feel abandoned, and I can't change the past. But together, we can build a better future." Their faces responded, interest sparking in forgotten eyes, but skepticism lingered like smoke. Then, a shift in the crowd. Someone brushed past him, a figure he recognized. It was Sam, his former business partner, the man whose cutthroat decisions propelled Jack to wealth but left scars in its wake. Sam approached quickly, a storm of confidence in his stride. "Jack, we need to talk," he said, his tone low, almost threatening. "Not now, Sam." Jack snapped, feeling the heat of betrayal rise in his chest. Disregarding the murmuring crowd, Sam stepped closer, his presence a dark cloud. "You can't save them," he whispered, a sneer curling on his lips. "You are nothing but an outsider trying to play hero in a game where you don't know the rules." Jack stared into Sam's calculating eyes. Could he be right? As rumors of corporate expansion echoed in the back of his mind, he felt the panic rise again. The fate of the community and Emily's dream felt perilously close to slipping through his fingers. "Leave, Sam. I'm not afraid of you." Jack barked back, hoping to silence his inner doubts. But the crowd watched intently, lingering on every tense moment. A few faces showed sympathy, others uncertainty, and still, Jack sensed their faith was delicate, like glass. The protest surged with renewed energy while an unexpected chill gripped the air. The looming threat of the corporation felt palpable, a monster waiting to pounce. With its deceitful intentions hidden in shadows, the stakes heightened. Jack knew Sam wouldn't back down without a fight. He was leaving this city without his prize. As minutes ticked away, he faced an agonizing choice. What did it truly mean to trust, and in whom could he place that trust? And then came the sound of sirens in the distance, piercing through the hope like a blade. Jack turned abruptly, his heart pounding. Were the authorities coming to silence them? Or was it worse? His thoughts raced as the crowd sensed the change in atmosphere, shifting from hopeful to fearful. What would happen next? The wail of sirens grew louder, breaking through the thick tension that hung in the air like fog. Jack's heart raced as the collective fear of the crowd surged. Confusion morphed into panic, eyes darting around, searching for answers, for safety. The energy shifted, what once felt like solidarity now held the frostbite of uncertainty. "Everyone, stay calm," Jack shouted, raising his hands, though he could feel the lump in his throat grow heavier. Maybe they would listen to him. Maybe he could still rally them. But deep down, he felt the weight of doubt crushing him. Then came the first flash of red and blue lights, slicing through the gathering gloom. With every blink from the approaching vehicles, he imagined the worst: riot gear, badges, and a declaration for dispersal. The stakes were climbing, fast. "What did I do?" someone murmured near the front. A young man with desperation in his voice. Jack scanned the crowd. The familiar faces of those he once considered allies now appeared hollow, harboring bleak uncertainty. If the authorities were coming for them, what would happen to those who had chosen to stand against the encroaching corporate machine? Sam stood off to the side, a malevolent grin stretching across his face. "You think you can just waltz in and be their hero?" he taunted, his voice mocking. "Your past will catch up to you. They'll see you for what you really are." Jack's fists clenched. Everyone was watching. "Get out!" he shouted, pivoting to face Sam, his tone sharp and accusatory, plunging into the heart of the escalating chaos. "You're the last thing they need right now. Just a reminder of what this place used to be." As the sirens barked closer, Emily stepped up beside him, her presence a grounding force. "Jack, don't let him get to you. This isn't just about you." Her voice, soothing yet urgent, reminded him of the larger picture. Together, they represented hope, the possibility of change. Couldn't that be enough? But Sam laughed, a rich, dark sound. "Oh, but it is. You're in too deep now. Look around. You've failed before you've even begun." Jack's breath caught as he glanced towards the crowd again. Disbelief and fear melted into desperation, some started to back away, others whispered among themselves, and all the while, the sirens edged closer. He began, hesitation grappling with the words. He couldn't let fear shackle him. "I know how you all feel. I understand. But this is our chance to fight back." His voice caught with fervor. "Together. We can take back what's ours." But silence fell, heavy and uncertain. They were listening, yet doubt lingered, like shadows hiding in the corners. With a sudden rush, the first police vehicle screeched to a halt, doors swinging open. Officers poured out in crisp uniforms, their expressions unreadable. The crowd froze, an electric jolt of fear surging through every individual. "Stay right where you are," one officer commanded, voice booming through the growing commotion. Jack's heart sank as he saw the glint of handcuffs dangling from the officer's belt. "Your time's up, Jack," Sam shouted over the chaos, as if the very air was proof of his betrayal. Was this truly the end? Jack felt the weight of anguish settling in his chest, but the flicker of hope ignited within held stronger. He turned to Emily, searching her gaze, desperate for answers, or some semblance of reassurance. What if Jack's voice trembled, the urgency seeping into his words? What if they don't just want to disperse us? What if they intend to make an example of us? Before she could respond, the first officer raised a hand, signaling for silence. "Where's Jack Thorne?" The name echoed through the air, heavy with expectation. Everything hinged on that question. Would he step forward, or would he let the community take the fall for his return? Jack swallowed hard, as the reality pressed in like a vice, leaving him with just 2 seconds to decide. The weight of the officer's gaze felt like a spotlight, burning hotter with each second Jack hesitated. The crowd held its breath, an anxious stillness enveloping them as they awaited his move. "Jack Thorne." The officer called again, more insistent this time. Jack felt every eye upon him, a million silent questions reflected in their expectant stares. "Don't do it." Sam leaned forward, his sneer only fueling the fire of panic in Jack's chest. "You can't save them." Jack's mind raced. In that moment, clarity emerged from the chaos. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about everyone gathered there, those who clung to the ember of hope he had ignited. Regret threatened to swallow him whole, his old life, burdened with mistakes, felt ready to grip him again. But it wouldn't be like before. It couldn't be. "Jack!" Emily hissed beside him, urgency coating her voice. "This isn't just a political statement anymore. It's about survival." And then it struck him. This wasn't only about standing up against authority. It was about being an example of resilience. With a shake of his head, Jack stepped forward into the space between the crowd and the officers. "I'm here." His voice cracked but rang with conviction. "I'm Jack Thorne." The officer stepped closer, narrowing his eyes. "The mayor wants to speak with you. You've caused quite the uproar here." Whispers erupted in the crowd, fear twisted with surprise. Jack felt a tiny spark of exhilaration. Yes, the mayor. A chance to confront the very face of the corporate machine that had stripped away so much from their lives. Maybe he could turn this all around, but as he approached, doubt clawed at him. Would the mayor listen? Or would Jack simply be another pawn, used to spread fear among his community? Stop right there. The officer's voice turned gruff, outstretching a hand as if to catch Jack like a flimsy leaf in a storm. You're not helping anyone by putting a target on your back. Jack's breath hung heavy in the air, and his heart thudded loudly in his ears. Maybe it's time someone did. The words felt foreign yet empowering as they left his lips, but Sam's laughter shattered his moment of yes. You think you can walk in there and come out on the other side? They've prepared for this. You're nothing but a memory to them, Jack. Just a way to extinguish hope. Jack didn't want to look back. His resolve trembled, but he couldn't show it now. He could feel Emily's hand on his shoulder, steadying him. Jack, her warning was low, but it didn't require elaboration. The air thickened with anxiety. The officer took a step closer. This isn't a game. You've exhausted your chances. We're taking you in. You're a public disturbance. You're disrupting civil peace. The crowd gasped collectively. The tension surged, a physical push against his back that felt like a riptide, dragging him toward uncertainty. Jack's mind frantically jumped through every possible outcome. Could he change anything? He had to try. Wait! Jack shouted, voice fierce, a desperate hope bursting forth. What if we negotiate? The mayor will listen. Enough! The officer thundered, fury flashing in his eyes, and Jack found himself thinking of all those who had stood beside him, all the pain that had led them to this very moment. They couldn't let this slip away without a fight. And then, in a flash, Emily stepped ahead. Jack, no. You can't give in. But it was too late for caution. A new voice broke through the panic, a woman's presence cutting sharply into the intensity. Open your eyes, Jack. She yelled from the back of the crowd, her frantic energy electrifying the atmosphere. They can't take your voice from you. As the consternation between officers and crowd escalated, Jack's pulse quickened. He was caught between two forces threatening to pull him under, but he could feel resistance building. He needed to act. Let this be the beginning. We are not afraid. Jack shouted. And with that, all eyes locked onto him with a unified gasp of realization. Could they rise together, or would he stand alone against the storm brewing before him? When the police officer's face twisted into a grimace of disbelief, Jack knew the battle was only just beginning. But would they rally behind him as he took the plunge into the unknown? The question hung precariously in the air, like a weight ready to tip the balance. The officer's expression froze, momentarily caught between fury and disbelief. Jack could see that hesitation, a crack in the armor. The crowd, sensing the shift, began whispering fervently, their words merging into a pulse of hope that throbbed around him. Jack! 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 They chanted, voices rising like an anthem. The sound vibrated against the concrete, creating a rhythm that drummed in Jack's chest, a mighty heartbeat. But the officer was far from done. You think a handful of chants will change anything? You're delusional. He spat, flexing his hands as if readying for a fight. The crowd recoiled, a collective intake of breath hanging in the air like the calm before a storm. Maybe it's time they heard the truth. Jack declared, his voice steadying. He felt a warmth cascade through him, a sudden surge of energy fueled by those who stood behind him, waiting. They had to break through the walls of indifference. Let me speak to the mayor. Now. Jack's voice cracked like thunder, louder than the noise of dissent. A challenge, an ultimatum. He saw the officer's jaw clench and knew the line had been drawn. But doubt still gnawed at the edges of Jack's resolve. Emily stepped closer, tension sparking between them. What if this doesn't go the way we think? She muttered, her eyes pleading. You need to be careful. I can't back down, Em, he replied, desperation woven into his tone. If we do, we lose everything. I have to face him. If I don't, what will happen to us? With the crowd rallying behind him, Jack took a deep breath, steadying himself against the flood of emotions, heart pounding, the unshakable need to act tugging him forward. The officer glared, an unyielding wall. You don't get to make demands here. You're Jack. A new voice cut through the noise, a powerful presence slicing through chaos. It was Ruth. The woman who had yelled earlier. She pushed through the crowd, determination radiating from her. Tell him what you need. She urged, her eyes shining with fierce conviction. This is more than a moment. It's our fight. A flicker of recognition sparked inside Jack. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was standing for all of them. Ruth's words wrapped around him like a lifeline, strong, unwavering. Yeah. We're done being silent. A man shouted from the back. We demand to be heard. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. Jack's pulse quickened. The crowd's energy shifted, igniting like dry kindling in a fire. Marina may be out of reach, Jack shouted, but I'm here. He could feel the fire within him spreading, the weight of despair transforming into momentum. We demand a conversation. Not just left in the dark. In that singular moment, Jack saw the fear in people's eyes transform into strength. The officer, still in front of him, faltered, the lines on his face deepening as uncertainty flickered in his gaze. Shut it down. He barked, but his words lacked conviction. The crowd surged forward, a tidal wave of frustration and resolve. Jack took a step closer. Let me talk to her. He called again, voice booming over the chaos. Let them see the change we can create together. But as the chaos grew, the officer's hand fumbled for his radio. Jack caught a glimpse of something in the officer's face, fear. The man was scared, perhaps knowing something that Jack didn't. Before Jack could process it, a new voice echoed through the chaos, ominous and familiar. This gathering is now classified as a riot. Jack whipped around. The mayor stood behind a line of arriving reinforcements officers, barricades, a stellar force of intimidation. Panic rippled through the crowd, dozens of faces losing color. Jack! Emily shouted, fear in her voice. Get out of there. But Jack stood resolute. The moment had come. Would he assume the mantle of bravery to protect them, or would hesitation swallow him whole? He turned back to the crowd, breathless. We fight and we move together. Whether that was just folly or foreshadowing their salvation, Jack didn't know. But as the mayor's lips twisted into a crooked smile, the stakes rose. What would happen? When the dust settled? Would Jack's voice stay, or would it be silenced forever? The crowd held its breath, waiting, as destiny loomed closer, sharp and unyielding. Jack's heart raced, pounding like war drums in his chest. The mayor's presence brought a chill that swept through the crowd, a palpable shift, a looming shadow threatening to snuff out their flickering flames of hope. Jack scanned the sea of anxious faces around him, each one a testament to the weight of years of struggle, silence, and waiting. Stand strong. Ruth shouted, her voice slicing through the fear like a beacon. It reignited Jack's spirit, turning his fear into a fierce defiance. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about every single person lining that street, aching for change. What does the mayor have to say? Someone shouted from the back. The question sparked murmurs. Jack could sense the tide shifting again. The mayor, however, seemed disinterested, a wolf in sheep's clothing, letting the tension hang thick in the air. Exactly. Jack shouted, desperation turning his voice ragged. What do you have to say, Mayor? Are we just noise to you? Just something to be shut down? The crowd seemed to hold its breath, anticipating a response, waiting for verification that their struggles mattered. The mayor smirked, casual as he sized Jack up. You think you can just waltz in here and demand a platform? You think this is a game? But Jack refused to wither under the scrutiny. It's not a game to us. He felt the urgency of every breath, every heartbeat rattling through him. This is our lives. This is our future. You can no longer sweep us aside. The mayor frowned, visibly irritated but underestimating the collective resolve facing him. He glanced over his shoulder at the officers behind him, their expressions a mix of anticipation and hesitation. The tide was shifting, his authority was challenged, and he didn't like it. Do you have any idea what you're up against? The mayor sneered, swaggering closer, testing Jack's bravery. This is bigger than you. The crowd erupted again, an unexpected chorus of defiance. Bigger? No. Someone bellowed. We won't be silenced. We will fight. We're the people. We are bigger. With each word, Jack felt the fire ignite anew. What the mayor was failing to see was that the crowd wasn't just there for a protest, they were igniting a movement, and they were ready to push back against the tides of dismissiveness and oppression. An officer stepped forward, tension crackling in the air like electricity. You need to disperse or we will take action. He barked, hand resting dangerously near his belt. Action? Jack echoed, incredulous. What does that mean? Are you going to push us back into the shadows? Or will you listen for once? Jack's tone was raw, the air around him thick with urgency. In that moment, as Jack's eyes darted around at the faces of his friends and strangers alike, he realized the question wasn't just who would listen, it was who had the power to change the narrative, but then the slick sound of a weapon being drawn sliced through the tension. A gasp echoed through the crowd. Jack's blood ran cold as he followed the sound, realizing one of the officers had taken out a baton, poised, ready for conflict. The air crackled with fear and anticipation. Stand back! The officer shouted, channeling a twisted form of authority. Jack's mind raced. They had a choice to retreat or to stand firm and face whatever storm was coming. He felt Emily's hand clutch his arm tightly, her eyes wide with fear. What do we do, Jack? He drew in a breath. This was a defining moment. We don't back down. He shouted, louder than the chaos. Together, we stand. As murmurs of support pulsed through the crowd, he saw that familiar flicker of resolve in their eyes return. But the officer stepped further forward, an unyielding sentinel in a moment thick with peril. What would happen next? Would fear dissolve their unity? Or would they rise together, unbowed and defiant? The pounding of feet on asphalt echoed like a war drum, vibrating with the urgency of a world hanging in the balance. Jack's voice rang out, but would his call be met with solidarity or revolt? The mayor's crooked smile twisted into something darker. As the future stood on a precarious edge, waiting for the first move. The officer's baton clanged against the pavement. That sound seemed to cut through the sudden silence, a brutal reminder of the violence that could erupt at any moment. Jack's heart thundered wildly in his chest as he scanned the faces around him. Fear gripped some, but the fire in others ignited determination. Don't let fear win. Ruth shouted again, her voice a clarion call. Like a wave, the crowd echoed her sentiment, words flying up like fireworks. We won't back down. Jack clenched his fists, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He needed to act. Listen. This isn't just about us. He bellowed, carrying his voice over the building rumble of defiance. It's for the ones who came before us and the ones who will come after. They won't silence our story. The officer narrowed his eyes, stepping closer, baton raised, intent on asserting dominance. As shadows stretched long across the street, Jack felt the tightness in his throat. The fight was real, but so was the risk. Please. Emily's voice trembled, her grip on his arm tightening, drawing his vital energy. We can't let this turn violent. There has to be a way out. But Jack's mind was made up. There is no way back, he whispered fiercely back at her, his resolve hardening. We have to push forward. Suddenly, the mayor's sharp laugh sliced through the tension. Do you really think chanting louder will change anything? This, he gestured broadly to the crowd, is just a circus. A flash in the pan. The crowd erupted in angry protests. Jack felt the anger bubble over. He could sense a shift in the air, a collective boiling point. With every insidious word the mayor tossed out, the fire grew, embers from lost hopes becoming raging flames demanding to be acknowledged. Then, just as Jack prepared to speak again, a woman at the front of the crowd broke away from the throng, stepping forward towards the officers almost defiantly. The shouting faded, and all eyes fell on her. It was Clara, a local activist renowned for her unwavering courage, her eyes ablaze with determination. Listen. She called out, her voice strong, unwavering. We've waited long enough. We are tired of hearing the empty words. This is our home. Respect our right to be heard. The mayor's face twisted into a mix of amusement and irritation, but Jack sensed an opening, the crowd ready to rally behind Clara. It felt like the tides were shifting. Join her. He urged, pushing his way forward, the crowd parting just enough for him to reach her side. Unite with her. Together, we are unbreakable. As Clara turned to him, a smile flickered across her face. It was small, but it ignited something deep within Jack. Hope. Resolve. He couldn't quite put a name to it, but it surged through him. The chant began again, softer at first, but rising in volume like a surge of righteous anger. No more silence. No more shadows. Suddenly, the officer swung his baton down, a clear sign of escalation. You're outnumbered. Disperse now. Jack felt the weight of certainty settle over him as the words came pouring out. We are not going anywhere. Just as chaos threatened to break out, a sudden flash lit the sky. Jack's heart dropped. A stun grenade. He felt panic ripple through the crowd, a collective gasp. Confusion swelled. Move. The officer shouted, chaos ensued. People pushed, some fell, others screamed. In that turmoil, Jack spotted Emily being pulled away. Emily. He shouted, his heart plummeting as he surged forward to reach her. But just then, the world erupted in chaos. As smoke filled the air, all hope burned like a flickering flame in a storm. Through the haze, Jack's vision was clouded. Would he reach her in time? And then, in the blur of movement and noise, he heard a voice calling from the dark. Now it was a race against the storm. What would he find? Would they survive together, or would everything unravel in the chaos? Jack's heart raced as smoke thickened around him, devouring all visibility. The air reeked of burning rubber and panic. Emily. He shouted again, desperately scanning the crowd, the sweat drenching his back and the rawness in his throat making it hard to breathe. He pushed through the tangle of people, their faces twisted with uncertainty and fear. Shouts punctuated the air, confusion seeming to spiral. He picked up a hint of her scent, faint, like freshly cut grass, and instinct drove him deeper into the chaos. Stay together. He yelled, trying to rally the masses, but his voice felt like a whisper against the roar of chaos. He needed to find her. Eyes watering from the debris, he stumbled forward, gripping the hem of a discarded sign. We will not back down. It declared. But where was Emily? A tidal wave of uncertainty crashed over him. Suddenly, he was knocked sideways by a stampede of bodies. Get back! An officer barked, pushing against the throng, baton swinging mercilessly, creating a path through the chaos. Jack ducked just in time, barely avoiding a direct hit. The officer's rage fueled a sense of dread in the crowd. Run! Yelled someone else, but Jack's feet felt rooted to the ground, adrenaline trapping him in place. Emily! He screamed again, louder this time. His voice, raw with fear and longing, became a plea, echoing off the walls of the buildings surrounding them. Then, like a beacon, he spotted a flash of her hair through the smoke. She was struggling against a pair of officers trying to haul her backward, her fear palpable even from a distance. Jack! She cried, her voice strained, and in that moment, everything froze around him. Fueled by an overwhelming surge of determination, he charged forward, pushing through bodies and smoke as hands reached out to grab him, trying to hold him back. He couldn't let them take her. Not like this. The world around him melted into a blur, every heartbeat felt like thunder echoing in his chest. Just as he reached the officers, a second stun grenade detonated with a deafening boom. Everything seemed to explode in a wash of dazzling white light and ringing sound. Jack stumbled, seizing Emily's hand before she could be dragged further away. The heat from the blast pulled him back, but he wouldn't let go. "Hold on!" he shouted, his words slicing through the chaos. With a fierce tug, he pulled her closer, their eyes locking for a brief moment filled with frantic fear and a shared understanding. Then, just as quickly as it came, the vision of her melted into smoke. Jack felt a sudden yank at the other end, his grip faltering. The crowd thinned, people scattering as if they were leaves caught in a storm. An officer lunged, baton swinging. "Get down!" someone yelled. Jack dropped instinctively, dragging Emily with him, the noise of the world pressing against his eardrums. They were surrounded now, the sky churning with chaos and uncertainty. "We have to get out of here," Emily gasped, her breath heavy, but as Jack looked into her eyes, he could see the flicker of despair. "Stay close," he urged, reliance coursing between them. Together, they needed to navigate through this madness, to find an escape. The crowd seemed to surge again, hot on their heels with both urgency and fear. As they pushed forward, Jack spotted a potential opening to his right, dim light peeking through a barely open gate that led into an alley. "Over there." He pointed, determination igniting anew, but before they could take a step, a piercing whistle cut through the air followed by shouted commands. The officers seemed to regroup, eyes narrowing as they sought to sweep the area. "Now!" Jack urged, pulling Emily toward the opening, but in that instant, a vice-like grip clamped down on his shoulder. Panic spread like wildfire. "Step back!" the officer shouted, but Jack's instincts kicked in. He had to keep running. With a violent twist, he broke free, yanking Emily along with him. They dove through the gate just in time. As they stumbled into the darkness of the alley, pain shot through Jack's ribs where the officer had grabbed him. Breathing heavily, he turned to Emily, their faces illuminated by flickering streetlights in the distance. "We did it," he exhaled, the rush of adrenaline slowly fading. But as they caught their breath, a question loomed, a sharp reminder they were still not safe. Where were they now, and what awaited them outside this temporary shelter? Could they really escape the storm that shadowed them? The alley was a narrow ribbon of darkness, shadows curling around them like fingers. Jack and Emily pressed against the damp brick wall, trying to catch their breath. The chaos outside roared like a beast, but in this moment, the world felt smaller, more contained. "Did we lose them?" Emily whispered, her eyes wide and searching. Sweat dripped from her brow as she leaned into him. Jack's heart ached not just from fear, but from the weight of the situation pressing down on them. "I think so for now," he murmured, glancing back toward the gate. The distant shouts and the crack of batons echoed like thunder in an approaching storm. It would only be a matter of time before the officers realized where they slipped away. That he closed his eyes for a second, feeling the rough, cool brick pressing against his back. Their shared adrenaline hung in the air, the heat of their bodies mingling in the dampness of the alley. Jack could sense the betrayal of his own composure. He needed to be strong, but dread gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Emily's voice pulled him back from that dark place. He opened his eyes, catching the flicker of hope in her expression. "What do we do next?" He took a deep breath, his mind racing. "We need to find a way out of this city. There's too much chaos here, and if they catch us aren't we already in enough trouble?" She interjected, panic creeping into her voice. "What if they find us?" We won't be caught," he interrupted, forcing his own fear back. "We'll stick together and figure it out." Just then, a noise interrupted their exchange, a heavy thud followed by muffled voices echoing from the mouth of the alley. Jack turned, instinctively shoving Emily back deeper into the shadows. They needed to stay out of sight, stay vigilant. His heart thundered at the unknown danger. "It's them," he whispered urgently. He felt Emily flinch beside him, a breathy, terrified gasp escaping her lips. "We have to move." Steeling himself, he took Emily's hand again, pulling her gently along the wall as they crept deeper into the alley. From the muffled voices outside, the officers sounded close. Each step was tense, the mere sound of their feet on the pavement feeling like blaring sirens, but then, amidst the fear, a flicker of light appeared ahead. There was a door set into the wall, partially ajar. Jack paused, eyes darting between the glowing sliver of hope and the dark figures looming at the alley's entrance. "Jack," Emily said softly, clutching his arm. "What if it's a trap?" There was no time for hesitation. "It's our best shot. We can't stand here." He pushed the door wider, the creak echoing loudly in the stillness. As they slipped inside, the shadows enveloped them. Inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit storage room stacked with crates and old furniture. The stench of mildew tickled Jack's nostrils. He felt a shiver run down his spine. "This is strange," he muttered, releasing Emily's hand. "We need to find another way out." Before they could regroup, a sound reverberated through the room, footsteps, slow and deliberate, approaching from the darkened corner. "Who is there?" a low voice stated, making Jack's heart drop into his stomach. They weren't alone. "Run," he mouthed to Emily, fear slicing through him like ice. But before they could make a move, the figure stepped into the faint light, a face emerging from the darkness that he recognized all too well. "What a surprise to find you two here," he said, smirking. It was someone Jack never thought he'd face again. The last person he wanted to see. "Get away from her." Jack snapped, stepping protectively in front of Emily as uncertainty crashed back in. Now, the man said with that annoying calmness. "You really don't want to start anything you can't finish." Jack felt the shaky ground beneath him. Every instinct screamed to fight, but with fear came a chilling realization. They were cornered again, and the situation was far more explosive than he ever imagined. And what this man could reveal could change everything. Just then, the door they entered through burst open behind them. With a terrible crash, leaving Jack's heart in his throat. As chaos erupted once more, their fates collided unpredictably. What would happen next? Would they escape again, or was this truly the end? The world tilted on its axis as the door swung open. Jack's heart thundered in his chest, a furious drumming that matched the chaos outside. In the dim light of the storage room, he barely registered the figure looming behind him. It was Sam, just as intimidating as ever, but with a venomous smirk painted across his face. "What a reunion," Sam taunted, stepping further into the room. The clash of their past gripped Jack, blending anger, betrayal, and a sliver of fear. "You thought you could save the moment, didn't you? How heroic. Get away from her." Jack barked, placing Emily firmly behind him, every fiber of his being screaming to protect her. He felt her trembling against his back, and a surge of determination ignited inside him. "Protecting the damsel in distress, huh?" Sam laughed, but it lacked humor, it dripped with malice. "This isn't a fairy tale, Jack. It's real life. You think standing up to me will change anything? You're already in too deep." Jack's mind spun. Emily deserved so much more than this. Their fight wasn't just against Sam but for the lives tangled in the shadows outside. He squeezed her hand, silently promising to not let go. She needed him now more than ever. "Why are you doing this?" Jack's voice shook with more anger than he felt. "Can't you see the damage you're causing?" "I see opportunity," Sam replied, unflinching. "And you're just a puppet trying to take a stance in a game you will never win." There was a glint in Sam's eye, as if he reveled in the torment that pit of despair. Jack could feel the darkness threatening to swallow them whole, but rage surged in Jack, coursing through his veins. You don't get to control this narrative. We're taking our lives back. The weight in his chest began to lift, fueled by resolve, bolstered by a crowd outside that echoed their fight. He could almost hear their chants calling him forward, calling them to rise. Enough. Sam interrupted, cutting with fierce scorn. You really think they care about you? This isn't about solidarity, it's about survival. And you're standing in my way. The noise outside escalated, officers shouting, and adrenaline coursed through Jack anew. He couldn't let fear entrap him. Not again. He remembered Emily's dreams and the flicker of hope in their eyes as they took to the streets. That was worth fighting for. Let us go, Emily. Jack proclaimed, heart racing. We have to find a way out before it's too late. He turned toward the door, pulling her forward, but Sam moved faster, blocking their exit. You think I'll let you walk out of here after all the trouble you caused? The shadows in the room deepened with his anger, and Jack could see darkness consuming him, just as it had before. Move! Jack shouted, prepared to fight. And as Sam stepped closer, the ground shook beneath them with authority, a sudden realization dawning as Jack pivoted it into action. If they could push past Sam, the door could be their freedom. Get down! A voice broke through, the voice of an officer, clear and branding. Jack's heart sank. This was at the moment of truth. First, the chaos, now, the uncertainty behind them. Take her and go. He shouted to Emily, as he conjured the strength to face Sam head-on. I'll hold him off. No. Emily cried, fear gripping her voice, but Jack felt the fierce energy in her words. His heart raced with terror and love, knowing she could become another victim if he hesitated. He couldn't allow that. In a split second, emotions collided within him, turmoil boiling over. He lunged at Sam, adrenaline igniting every muscle, but Sam moved with predatory grace, grabbing Jack's arm, preparing for the clash. That a loud crash echoed through the door entrance, causing everyone to freeze. Officers stormed the room like a flood, weapons drawn, a ripple of chaos unfurling at the intersection of power and defiance. Jack's world destabilized in that moment, swirling dangerously on the edge. Get down! One officer shouted, their urgency sharp enough to cut through the haze of Jack's instinct. The room erupted in disarray, furniture toppled, and in the momentary chaos, Jack made a decision. He had to act fast. With a fierce determination, he shouted, this way. And wrenched Emily's hand again, guiding her toward the far corner of the room. As they rushed toward the back door, fear flashed in every glance exchanged, but a fire ignited in their hearts. They moved through the room, plunging into the blurred depths of escape amid the chaos unfolding behind them. Sam's frustrated growl rang out, you think you can run? You're nothing without me. But Jack's response was instinctive as they found the door ajar to the light beyond the shadowed chaos. We are everything, he shouted back, propelled forward by their shared hope. And we'll write our own story. Then, with a push, they plunged through the door, the crisp air hitting them like a wave, and the night erupted outside with the roar of the crowd still fighting for their voices, shimmering with defiance. They stepped into a world on the brink, where so many stood ready to bring their plight into the light. Jack grasped Emily's hand tighter, the energy of the moment electrifying. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a reclaiming of their dreams, a purposeful stand against everything that sought to silence them. Together they would rise, together they would conquer. As they joined the pandemonium of voices returning, Jack realized something crucial. In a world that tried to silence hope, he had found it again stronger than before. And with Emily beside him, navigating the storm, turning into a beautiful phenomenon of hope and unity, their past became a stepping stone, not a blockade. The future was unwritten, but they would write it together, one heartbeat at a time. Time to rally their voices, time to make the world listen. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic conclusion. You need to show your support. Every action counts.